Most people who pick up a length of PVC pipe think the hard part is the cutting. It is not. After 3 decades in the plumbing trade, I can tell you the real damage happens in the small decisions most DIYers never even know they are making. In this video, we're going over 10 of the most common and most costly mistakes people make when working with PVC pipe. Stick around for number 7, because it is the one that causes problems weeks after you thought everything was fine. And do not miss the bonus tip at the end. The first mistake on our list is failing to deburr cut pipe ends. And it is one that quietly sets every joint you make up for an early failure. When you cut PVC pipe with a ratchet cutter or a hacksaw, the edge that is left behind is never clean. There's always a lip, a ridge, or tiny burrs that curl inward along the inner wall of the pipe. Most people glance at the cut, it looks straight enough, and they move on. That is the mistake. When you push a rough cut end into a fitting and apply solvent cement, those burrs and ridges do not seal into the joint. They catch. They create tiny turbulent pockets inside the connection where water flow is disrupted and where the solvent cement never fully bonds to the pipe wall the way it is supposed to. Over time, that partial bond is simply not enough. Water pressure works its way into those micro gaps, and the joint slowly weeps. Sometimes it takes a few days. Sometimes it takes months. But it will eventually go, and when it does, you will be tearing out finished walls or pulling up finished floors to find out exactly why. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple. Every professional plumber carries a deburring tool, which is a small handheld device with a tapered reamer on one end and sometimes a flat scraper on the other. You insert it into the cut pipe end and rotate it a few times. 30 seconds of work, and the problem is gone. Some people use the edge of a sharp utility knife or a half-round file, and that works just as well. The goal is a smooth, chamfered inside edge, with no burrs, no ridge, and no roughness whatsoever. Make this a non-negotiable habit on every single cut, every single time, no matter how good the cut looks to the eye. After deburring, wipe the pipe end and the inside of the fitting socket with a clean, dry rag before you apply any primer. Dust, debris, and moisture are all enemies of a good solvent weld. Start clean, finish right, and your solvent-welded pipe joints will last for decades. The second mistake worth slowing down for is using the wrong primer, or skipping primer entirely. And this one is so common that I have stopped being surprised by it. Solvent cement on its own does not glue PVC. That is not how it works. Solvent cement is a chemical welding agent. It melts the outer layer of the pipe and the inner surface of the fitting so they fuse together into a single material. But for that fusion to happen properly, the surfaces need to be chemically prepped first. That is what primer does. Purple primer softens and cleans the bonding surfaces so the cement can penetrate deeply and create a true molecular bond. When you skip primer, the cement sits on top of a surface that has not been adequately softened. The joint may feel solid when you first test it and may even hold for a while under low pressure, but it is not a true weld. Under sustained pressure, thermal cycling, or vibration, that joint will eventually open up. Here is the detail that catches a lot of experienced DIYers off guard. In many states and municipalities, purple primer is not optional. It is required by code on all pressure-rated PVC and CPVC connections. An inspector can fail your installation if the purple staining from proper primer use is not visible on every fitting. That staining is the inspector's visual proof that you primed correctly. Clear primer exists and is legal in some jurisdictions, but if you are not sure what your local code requires, default to purple. Apply primer to the pipe end first, then to the fitting socket, then to the pipe end again. Let it sit about 5 seconds before applying cement. The third item we need to cover is misreading pipe schedule and pressure ratings. And this mistake can move from an inconvenience into a genuine safety hazard. PVC pipe is not all the same. In the plumbing aisle, you will see Schedule 40 and Schedule 80 as the two most common options. Schedule 40 is the standard white pipe most people recognize. Its walls are thinner and it is rated for lower pressure applications like drain, waste, and vent systems, along with cold water supply lines where pressure is moderate. Schedule 80 has thicker walls, is usually gray, and is rated for higher pressure and situations where the pipe may face greater physical stress or where threaded fittings are required. Where people go wrong is assuming all white PVC is the same, and that any pipe labeled PVC works for any PVC application. It does not. If you are running supply lines that will see sustained pressure or threading directly into the pipe rather than using slip fittings, Schedule 40 can crack under conditions that Schedule 80 handles without issue. The threading process removes material from the pipe wall. On Schedule 40, that leaves very little structural material behind. Check the stamping on every length of pipe before you buy it. The schedule rating, pressure rating, and intended application are printed directly on the pipe. Take 30 seconds in the store to read it. Also know that PVC working pressure drops as temperature rises. If your cold water line runs near a heat source, that matters. By the way, if you are finding this advice helpful, you should know it is just a small sample of what I have put into my new guide, The Ultimate Plumbing Playbook. It is packed with step-by-step instructions for hundreds of repairs that can save you thousands. To grab your copy, you can scan the QR code on the screen right now, or just use the first link in the description below. All right, let us continue. The fourth mistake that trips up more experienced DIYers than beginners is over-tightening threaded PVC fittings, and it causes some of the most baffling delayed leaks in all of plumbing. When people come from working with metal pipe, they carry a familiar habit with them. Tighten until it feels snug, then go a little further just to be safe. With iron or brass fittings, that approach holds up fine. Metal can take substantial torque without flinching. PVC absolutely cannot. PVC is a rigid thermoplastic, and when you apply too much rotational force to a threaded fitting, the material does not flex or compress. It cracks internally, and the crack is not always visible to the eye right away. What happens is called stress fracturing. The cracks often begin deep on the inside of the fitting wall, where you cannot see them from any angle. The joint may look perfectly fine from the outside. You run your water, nothing drips, you reinstall the cabinet door, and walk away satisfied. Then weeks or months later, the crack slowly propagates outward to the exterior surface, and you discover a leak that has been quietly soaking the inside of your cabinet or your wall, framing the entire time. The correct approach with threaded PVC fittings is hand tight plus 1.5 to 2 turns, no more. Use Teflon tape wrapped clockwise around the male threads, 2 to 3 wraps minimum, and apply pipe thread sealant compound over the tape for maximum security. Thread in by hand, then use a strap wrench or channel lock pliers with a rag protecting the fitting surface to finish those final turns gently. Never use a metal pipe wrench directly on PVC. Never muscle it past resistance. If a joint still shows a slow drip after 1.5 turns, add another wrap of tape and try again rather than simply cranking harder and hoping for the best. The fifth mistake is one of the most impatient decisions a DIYer can make, and that is not allowing proper cure time before pressurizing the system. You have primed your joints, applied the solvent, cement, and held each fitting firmly in place for 30 seconds while the initial bond begins to set. Everything smells like chemistry and hard work. And then someone in a house flips the water back on. That is the exact moment where a perfectly assembled system can blow apart at the joints and undo every bit of work you just did. Solvent cement cures in distinct stages. The initial set happens in the first 30 to 60 seconds, which is exactly why you hold the fitting with firm pressure during that window. But full cure, meaning the point where the joint can genuinely handle working pressure without any risk of separation, takes considerably longer than most people realize. The exact cure time depends on pipe diameter, ambient temperature, humidity levels, and the specific cement formula you used. For 3/4-inch pipe at average room temperature with a standard cure cement, you are looking at a minimum of 1 hour before any low pressure testing and a full 24 hours before returning the system to full normal operating pressure. In cold temperatures, those times extend significantly and the stakes get higher. Below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, some solvent cements will not cure properly at all, and joints assembled in cold conditions can remain surprisingly brittle and weak even after they appear fully set to the touch. If you are working in an unheated crawl space, basement, or garage in winter, always use a low temperature or all-weather cement specifically formulated for cold conditions. And always give it more cure time than the label minimum recommends. Patience here costs nothing. The sixth item on our list is using PVC in high heat applications. And this is a mistake the pipe itself will not let you get away with for long. Standard PVC begins to soften and lose structural integrity at around 140 degrees Fahrenheit. In practical terms, this means PVC is appropriate for cold water supply lines and for drain, waste, and vent systems where the water temperature stays well below that threshold. It is not appropriate for hot water supply lines, for connections near water heaters, for steam applications, or anywhere the pipe might face sustained heat from an external source like a furnace flue, a heating element, or direct exposure to an appliance. The most common place this mistake happens is hot water supply connections under kitchen sinks or in utility rooms near water heaters. For a while, everything seems fine because the joint holds at startup. Then the pipe slowly deforms with each hot water cycle. Joints that were perfectly aligned begin to pull at subtle angles and eventually leak. If you are working on hot water supply lines, the correct material is CPVC, which is rated for continuous service up to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. CPVC uses its own dedicated cement, which we covered earlier. The critical habit to build is reading the pipe stamp carefully before every single purchase, without exception. The seventh mistake, and the one I promised you at the start, is failing to account for thermal expansion in long PVC runs. And this is the mistake that looks invisible right up until it destroys something. PVC expands and contracts with temperature changes more than most people realize. The coefficient of thermal expansion for PVC is roughly 3 times higher than that of copper. A 30-foot run of PVC exposed to a 50-degree temperature swing will expand or contract by nearly 3/4 of an inch. Over months and years, that constant movement works against every fixed connection in the run. When PVC has nowhere to move, the stress concentrates at fittings, at glued joints, and at any point where the pipe passes through a drilled hole or hanger. Joints open up. In worst cases, long horizontal runs will bow and buckle in ways that cause real structural damage. The solution is to plan for movement before you install. On runs longer than 15 feet, use expansion loops or offsets, which are sections of pipe in a U shape that let the run flex without stressing fittings. Use hangers that hold securely but do not clamp rigidly. Leave a small gap at fixed end points through framing. The cost of this preparation is zero. The cost of a slow, catastrophic failure inside a finished wall is not. The eighth mistake that catches DIYers off guard is reaching for the wrong solvent cement for the type of pipe they're working with. Standard PVC cement is formulated for PVC. CPVC cement is a different formula for CPVC pipe. A BS cement is for ABS. Using PVC cement on CPVC joints results in a bond that appears complete but lacks the chemical compatibility for a true solvent weld. The cans look similar, the colors vary by brand, and in a dim crawl space, it is very easy to grab the wrong container. Mark your cans clearly before the job and keep PVC and CPVC supplies physically separated in your tool bag. If you are transitioning between PVC and CPVC with a mechanical fitting, use the appropriate cement on each side based on the pipe material at that connection. The ninth item is installing PVC outdoors in direct sunlight without UV protection, and it is a mistake that ages a pipe dramatically faster than it was designed for. Ultraviolet radiation from direct sunlight degrades the polymer chains in PVC over time. The pipe becomes progressively more brittle, discolors from white to a dull yellow or chalky gray, develops surface crazing that looks like fine spiderweb cracks, and eventually fails structurally under normal water pressure or even a light physical impact. UV damage is cumulative and entirely irreversible. Once it sets into the pipe wall, there's no restoring the material to its original strength. You can only replace it. The fix is genuinely simple and takes almost no time at installation. Paint exposed PVC with a water-based latex paint in any light color, applied in 2 even coats. Light colors reflect heat and UV more effectively than dark ones, which is an added benefit in sunny climates. You can also wrap or sleeve the pipe in standard foam pipe insulation, which blocks UV radiation and provides a layer of thermal protection as a bonus. Some specialty UV-resistant PVC pipe is manufactured for outdoor applications and is worth using on permanent exterior installs. Whatever method you choose, do this work at installation time, before the pipe is ever exposed to a single season of direct sun. Retrofitting UV protection to already degraded pipe is a short-term patch, not a real solution. The 10th and final mistake on our list is ignoring local code requirements for drain, waste, and vent systems, and it carries the highest long-term financial consequences of anything on this list. Building codes vary significantly between states, counties, and municipalities. Drain, waste, and vent systems are among the most heavily regulated parts of residential plumbing. Improperly vented drain lines create negative pressure that pulls water out of P-traps, allowing sewer gas into the living space. Before you re-plumb any drain system, contact your local building department. Confirm whether a permit is required, ask whether PVC is approved for DWV use in your area, and verify minimum slope requirements for horizontal runs. The standard is 1/4 inch of drop per foot, but some local codes differ. A permit costs a modest amount up front. Failing a home sale inspection over unpermitted plumbing can cost you tens of thousands of dollars in forced corrections, and in some cases, it can cost you the sale itself. Do it right the first time. And now for the bonus tip that professional plumbers swear by and most homeowners never hear about. When you are making solvent welded joints in a tight space or in a position where you cannot easily rotate the pipe after insertion, use what is called the quarter turn method with a reference mark. Before applying any cement, dry fit your pipe and fitting together and use a permanent marker to draw a straight line across both pieces. When you apply primer and cement and push the joint together, you insert the pipe with the marks offset by a quarter turn, then rotate the pipe back to align the marks as you seat the fitting fully. This rotation spreads the cement evenly around the full circumference of the joint and eliminates dry spots that form when cement is applied unevenly or when pieces are pushed straight in without any rotation. It takes no extra time, requires no extra materials, and it is the single most reliable way to guarantee a properly wetted joint every time. Professional plumbers do this automatically. Now you will too. Before you go, I want to make sure you know about my complete guide, the Ultimate Plumbing Playbook. It goes way deeper than we can in a single video, with 85 pages covering everything from clearing any clog to replacing your own water heater. If you want to stop wasting money on simple fixes, this book is for you. Just scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description to get your copy. Thanks for watching. And if you have not already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you do not miss the next one.